Okay. Whether you are here in the Omni Ballroom or joining us by Zoom, welcome. We are glad you have joined us. I will now call to order Florida's first club, the Rotary Club of Jacksonville. Wayne Bailey, accompanied by Andy Clark, will lead us in the national anthem. Today is December 7th, 2020.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Past President Tracy Jenks will provide today's invocation.
Happy holidays, everyone. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to be together in person again, and for the food that is before us, and for your many blessings. We thank you for the privilege of being here among friends, for the opportunity to share ideas and to serve our community. Please keep everyone safe today and over this holiday season. May your radiant spirit guide us, our country, and the world in a positive way all the days of our lives. Amen.
You seated, please. Visiting us today, Harold Pierce, Gabby Buenano, Marcus Dobrine from Sawgrass Financial, and visiting Rotarian, we have Mr. Robert Devers. Today's program is being recorded. Last week, I updated you on the wonderful work our hands-on committee did with the food drive. Just to recap, because of your donations, we delivered 4,661 pounds of food and a financial contribution of over $1,500 to Feeding Northeast Florida. Then we hosted our annual bell ringing for the Salvation Army this past week. For those of you who do not know, we started our relationship with the Salvation Army in 1926 and actually started ringing the bell 30 years later in 1956. Last week, we rang the bell for 2 days at the Publix in Riverside and participated in our first ever telethon at TIAA Stadium. And that was a lot of fun. I don't have our final tallies from the bell ringing, but I can tell you that we raised $6,760 during the 2 hours we worked the phones on Thursday. Mennonach raised $6,256. So we surpassed Mennonach by $555. Thank you to everyone who participated and put up with the extra emails I sent out and others sent out and the text to drum up contributions. Harold Pierce began his bell ringing journey over a decade ago when a fellow church member told him to apply for a position, saying his personality fit the job. It took some coercing, but after a while he gave in and became a bell ringer. More than 15 years later, he is still ringing the bell. To pass the time, he sang. Passerbys encouraged him to sing louder. After that, it became the singing bell ringer and caroler. We've enjoyed having Harold with us at our annual Christmas program ever since I can remember. Sadly, we are unable to host the event as we would have done in the past, but hope to again one day and are glad he could join us today. You see, today is special. We heard that Harold is retiring and we wanted to do something really nice for him. So at this time, I would like to ask Harold to join me at the podium.
Instead of 28, I'm 82, so it makes a difference coming up the steps.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I extend our heartfelt thanks to your great work in our community. Our club would like to extend to you the honor of being a Paul Harris Fellow today in recognition for your humanitarian work in our community.
All right, thank you. God bless. Thank you very kindly.
Would you like to say anything?
Yes, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor to receive the recognition. I started this reluctantly after my friend kept pushing me about coming down and signing up. And I kept telling them, no, I don't want to do that. I have found it to be one of the most rewarding things I've done in my life. After finding out how much good the Salvation Army does for this community, I would be remiss if I didn't give it my all when this time of year rolls around. And I encourage each of you, no matter what you've done, if you ever get the opportunity to walk out to the warehouse and just watch the expressions and the anticipation on the faces of the people as they are going in to receive the gifts, and then look at the expressions on their faces as they come out with the bicycles, the dolls, and all of the toys. It's so heartwarming. If you are any kind of a decent human being, you can't help but be excited. So that in itself encourages me to try and go a little while longer ringing the bell and singing to raise money for the Salvation Army. Because when you see that slogan that says, doing the most good, believe me, I'm a living witness. It's the truth. God bless you and continue to keep you in this pandemic. Many people have taken it for a joke, but it's real. Lord in heaven knows it's real. I know of a situation where a young man lost his mother one week and he died the next. So this thing is really serious. And I encourage each of you to do whatever you can to be as safe as you can. And remember, God promised to be our protector, but he didn't ask us to be stupid. He will protect you as long as you try to protect yourself. God bless you, and thanks again. And if life lasts and the creek don't rise, I may not be able to do as many hours, but I'm going to try to do it again next year because I love it. Thank you.
I want to remind you that the deadline for nonprofit organizations to apply for Rotary grants is December 31st. So please extend the invitation to your colleagues who are with nonprofits serving the Jacksonville area. All application information is on our website. Applications are completed and submitted through the online process. Today, we have a member who has completed the new member requirements to receive his blue badge. I would like to ask Chris Mikalakis to join me at the podium. That's your buddy looking out for you. It's your buddy looking out for you. This is just supposed to take a second. It's only a second. It's only going to take a second. Chris, pay no attention to this young man in front of you. Chris has completed the new member requirements by completing both parts of his new member orientation and been a member for at least 6 months. Chris, it's my pleasure to present you your blue badge. Thank you very much. You're welcome. And our Rotary book of the first 100 years of the Rotary.
Well, thank you very much.
Would you like to say something?
If I have to, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. President-elect designee Jim Agee called me last Friday, and he explained to me the significance of the blue badge. And he posed a question. He said, Rotary has accepted you. Why should you accept Rotary? I had to ponder the question. And the answer was easy. Because it fits. As a young boy in the Cub Scouts, in the Boy Scouts, and in the military, we all have our mottos, our slogans. Do your best, be prepared, service before self. Well, all those things mean something to an organization. And I gravitate toward organizations because of like-minded people, shared values. We're all here for the same thing. So that was an easy fit. That and a couple of things. Our first test, is it the truth? That seems to be in short supply today in the post-truth era. Truthfulness, more succinctly, seems to have lost its way. And I know we're all committed to that in the absence of falsehood. And the other thing, Article 6, Number 4 of our 5 avenues to service, international service is a good fit for me. As a captain for Delta Airlines, over the last 13 years, I've been flying to Africa, and I've had a great association with the International Airline Trade Association. I've done a lot of work there as a chair for a regional coordination group. And Jim told me that there is a committee here, the Williams Visionary Scholars Program, that works with African ophthalmologists, and I look forward to working with Dr. Nauer on that. So all these things are a good fit. So I'm honored and proud to accept this blue badge. I think it's the first COVID blue badge that you're awarding. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Howard Wanamaker will introduce today's speaker.
All right, well, thank you all, and thank you, President Jerry. And for those out there in Zoom land, there's about just over 30 of us, social distancing, 4 to a table. You don't know what you're missing. And but again, it is my honor today to introduce our guest speaker. As a young child, she was born in La Habana, Cuba, and at age 15, her family and she immigrated to Canada, and then from Canada to the United States. She attended McGill University from 1985 to 1989, and then Florida Coastal School of Law from 98 to 2001. She graduated with high honors and #1 in her class. She served on numerous boards like Jack's Chamber, Leadership Jacksonville, a graduate of Leadership Florida in 2013. She's a phenomenal immigration and compliance attorney at Marks Gray. But more than that, a world-renowned attorney and published author of a book, H-1B, in Your Guide to Work Visas that are out there. She is an accomplished marathoner and triathlete. And having talked to her just earlier and see how humble she is, I looked up some of her stats. And the Gulf Coast triathlon, half triathlon, 70.3 at Panama City last year, she was 10th overall. She was 103 out of the women that were running and 420 total out of just over 1,400. I asked her, was that her most recent race? And she said, no. This past weekend, she completed the Daytona Challenge. I tried to look up those stats, but they're not available just yet. But she did finish 12th in her age group. Please, folks, let's a warm welcome to Giselle Carson.
I have to say, I don't even remember my own stats. That is so impressive. Thank you so much. And I am thrilled to be here. I know we have transitioned a few times this year. At the beginning of the year, we started March, February, transitioning completely virtually and got used to that a little. And now we're transitioning back to half virtual and half in person. And you know, that would also take some adaptations. I don't know about you, but sometimes I go live like this in person and kind of go, oh my gosh, what do we do? So, but it's really thrilling to be able to see each other. And for those of you in the virtual world, hello. It's also great to have you here. And I know Bill is probably out there in the virtual world, so thank you. And again, thank you to you all for being here. And as we are in the land of the brave, I kind of manage my life somehow in between the challenges of immigration during a pandemic, which is what we're going to talk about, and balance the other side of that with triathlons and marathons to keep me balanced. So we'll talk today about what is it like, or what was it like for one of our clients to come to the United States, immigrate to the United States through a global pandemic. And it was truly an unforgettable journey. So imagine, how many of you have been challenged by COVID in any way, shape, or form? Raise your hands. And those of you that have your hands down, I do not believe you. But yeah, just COVID alone, it's been a huge challenge. And then you add that complexities of immigration. How many of you in the room have immigrated personally? A few. How many of you have had your parents or anybody else in the family immigrated to the United States? How many of you, your grandparents or great-grandparents immigrated to the United States? How many of you have had anyone in your family that immigrated to the United States? At some point, somebody has been touched by the process of immigration. So imagine what those, you yourselves or your relatives or those who have you known, have come through through the challenges of migration, and add to that COVID, and your brain just kind of explodes. So how is stressful for those of you, and this is just in the United States, how many of you have moved in the United States, even just homes? I know some of you recently have moved states, have moved internationally, yeah? And in the scale of 1 to 4, for how many of you was it an easy walk in the park? No. For how many of you was it very stressful? Yeah, there's a fair amount of stress. And for you all of you virtually, I want you to have this as the perspective as we talk. What was it like for this person, for Adam? So this is his family. Imagine they're in South Africa. It was Adam is a CEO of a global company. So they have operations in South Africa. They have operations in 2 other places in the world. And then they had an office in the United States, which is growing. And the plan was for him to come to the United States to continue to grow his US operations that at the time, actually even currently they have 5 employees. And with him coming into the United States, the plan is to grow that company to 20 employees over the next 2 years. He has 2 daughters, teenagers. How many of you have teenagers in the room? Okay. How many of you have experienced, even not teenagers, kids that are going to school virtually this year? Okay. So these 2 young girls coming out from a completely different country, completely different education system, are coming to the United States to incorporate themselves, assimilate themselves into our education system. How many of you remember the executive order that was there? You probably saw it in the news about not admitting any international students in the middle of the summer. Yeah. So think of some of you that have the kids at home, and now you're coming to a new country with your daughters or your kids, and not knowing whether they're going to be able to go to school or not. We have a dog. We have a dog in the family. We have 2 kids. This is all important. We have mom. We have the CEO of the company. They're leaving behind what they know, going into the unknown of the United States. The agencies that we work through for this process, there's various immigration agencies that are involved. Department of Homeland Security, and there's 2 branches of the Department of Homeland Security that we deal with for this case. That was immigration, USCIS, which is the one that approves the petition. And then the embassies abroad, the consulates, which are the ones that issue the visas for them to come to the United States. And CBP. And CBP is the ones that admit the person into the country once they're at the airport. So I'm going to divide this presentation almost into 3 stages. The first one, that's why I put the slide here. So for those of you that are not familiar with immigration, you first get your petition approved through USCIS. Then you get your visa stamp at the consulate abroad. And then you show up at the airport and are inspected again by CBP to admit you to the United States. So we'll go through this journey. Are you all with me? Yes. Okay, so just planning the first 3 months of the year was a challenge. We were 10 hours apart, so the communications were difficult. Again, this is a global manager. Most of you are business owners, executive managers, leaders. We all have very busy agendas. So making sure that we could communicate and that the communications were, via email, sometimes you miss the ideas and things that you, especially when, even though we spoke the same language, which is a plus. Some of our clients do not, so that adds to the complexity, but this was English. But still, some things, the way we say it in the United States, are not necessarily the same way that are going to be interpreted there. So we had to deal with all of that and collecting a huge amount of documentation. how many of you had something renewed through a government agency through the pandemic? How was that process? Complicated? Frustrating? I know, I had to have my passport renewed. And when I logged in to see where the status was, first I couldn't expedite it. Anybody had their passport renewed lately? No? Was that a fun experience? No. It was very scary because I had to send my passport to them and I had no idea if they had received it. And finally it showed up like, we've received your passport. And then it said, do not contact us. We have no idea how long this process is going to take. And that was just my passport. So for our clients, we were not demanding, I shouldn't say, we were requesting many documents that they had to get through many government agencies in their country. And the situation was about the same or worse. So just that was very difficult. And here we're still on the first stage of just gathering things to file with USCIS. So we have COVID. Then once we start preparing things, we start getting proclamations. The government saying, we're canceling visas, we're canceling non-immigrant visas, we're canceling premium processing. So our client sends me an email, and in the presentation, I put various emails as to, that he was sending me to just kind of give you a perspective as to what is going on in his mind. It's almost like, I'm ready to go. Get me out of here. What about all these proclamations? What is it going to mean for me? What is it going to mean for my family? Am I going to be able to go back into the United States? I have business meetings that how many of you consider yourself an A personality? Okay, Uber A++. Okay, he's running a billion-dollar company abroad, and he's coming to run a multi-million-dollar company in the United States, and he has a family. So all of this, where is my visa? Okay. Then, remember that question I asked you? So after we got past the proclamations about the visas not being issued, and this was just business visa, not a student's visa. The next proclamation that came in the summer was no international students are going to be allowed in the United States because all of our schools are going virtual. And if you're going virtual, well, international students, you can either not come or do something else, but you're not coming. So the next email that we received was, what about my daughters? What am I going to do here? And the daughters was a significant challenge in just themselves. They initially got a counselor appointment to get their visas in their home country, and the counselor appointment was canceled. So they had the appointment, so he sent me an email saying, this is awesome, they're going on an appointment, it's next week. The next day, he sent me an email saying, the appointment has been canceled. The consulate said they cannot issue new visas because of the proclamation. What are my options? I want them to start school in September. So I said to him, well, let's look at another option would be to go to a third country, one of the other countries where you have business at, potentially because you have business in that country, that consulate will be able to, will accommodate you. Thankfully, it was such a big operation. They brought a lot of good business and goodwill into that country, a small country, and he was able to get an appointment for the daughters there. The daughters had to quarantine. Has anybody traveled and had to quarantine? Oh, another experience. So the daughters went to the third country. They had to quarantine before they could go to the interviews. They went to the interview and they had to travel through Dubai in order to come back into the United States, and they had to quarantine again. Anyway, good success story. They were in the United States, ready to start school in September, and they did. So that was our first big accomplishment. So now we're back. The daughters are good. Now we're back into his visa. We're in August. That's the size of the filing that we have put together. That's the L1 petition. So L1 is an intra-company transfer. There's a whole alphabet of visas out there. The L is for a manager and executive of a global company, and it's called the intra-company transferee because we're transferring someone from a company abroad to a company in the United States. So that was ideal for him. That's the size of the package. L petition is filed, and yes, we got it approved. That's me claiming victory in Philly. So how many steps, how many agencies did I say were involved in this process? I want to keep you on your toes. I hope that when you leave that door today, you learned something about immigration. 3, okay? So the first one was USCIS, Department of Homeland Security. So USCIS is the one that approved our L. So big success. The daughters are in the, so this is August. August was a big month. The daughters get their visas, they come into the United States, the L1 visa petition gets approved, and we're all very happy. Check the first agency, and we move on to agency number 2. The agency number 2 is the embassy abroad, and they are the ones that need to give us the visa. So he goes to the consular appointment, and interestingly, do you all know what has happened to our consulates abroad? They've been closed, most of them, completely closed. And at the time when he got his appointment, they were starting to reopen, okay? So the officers have not been adjudicating anything. So the officer said to him, you're the first L1 that I have adjudicated in the last 6 months. So I had to do a little bit of research. Thankfully, his research concluded that he should have approved this L1, and he got an L1, but the L1s was one of those visas that were also under the proclamation that were banned from being issued because it's a new visa. It's not someone that had already a visa, it was a new one. So we have to petition for an exemption. So he got what is called a national interest exemption visa, very unique visa. Not many people in the world have it. And the officer had to do some additional research as to how to issue this national interest exemption visa. But he did, he got it. Again, another success, second agency, we've made it. So yes, so then he says to me, his email, and you probably read it, yay, everything went well at the interview. I hope to get my visa. Hopefully everything goes well and I can catch my plane and I can make it back into the United States. So I got another email later during the week. Yeah, we got it. So that's what his national interest exemption visa looks like. So we're down 2 success stories. We made it through the consular appointment. So my last agency before we go there, who remembers what the next step is? Yeah, Border Patrol. How many of you have been on those lines at the airport? I get frightened every time that I come off the plane and I'm like, oh my God, how long am I going to be here? And I can't use my phone. And if you're a foreign national with the national interest exception waiver, it's 3 times the complexity. So here we go. So past USCIS, past the consulate, now on to our friend at CBP. And he did go through CBP. What do you think the officer at CBP said to him when he saw the visa stamp?
I didn't know we were doing these.
Almost. Good for you. Almost that. Oh my God, I haven't seen one of this before. How did you get this? But thankfully, they put him on secondary inspection and everything checked out, and he happily came into the United States. So now we're here. We passed all of our 3 checks, success stories. How long do you think, I mean, we hear a lot in the news about, legal permanent residents and people that are going to become US citizens and all of this, and it can get very confusing. So again, I just want you to have a perspective as you leave here as to how the process works. So most foreign nationals like myself come into the United States on a non-immigrant visa, a work visa. So I came into the United States initially on a work visa, like him, on an L1. I wasn't an L1, but I had a non-immigrant visa. Then we transitioned into legal permanent residency. That's a green card. And then after that, we transitioned into a naturalized citizen. So that was my process. That's the process for most foreign nationals that come into the United States, okay? So it's not that simple to go from a work visa to a US citizenship. So how long do you think it will take our CEO to become, let's say, a legal permanent resident? So I'm gonna take this step back. How long do you think it would take him to become a legal permanent resident? Don't tell anyone that I pay you. It would probably take him 2 years, so you're right. And the reason actually would probably be 2 years for him is, so you're awesome. He is in a special category. The L1 is really a very unique category for foreign nationals that are executive and managers. So the immigration laws presume that someone in that category, you cannot just go out and hire someone like him. He has internal knowledge of his company, process, procedures that cannot be found in the US workforce. So when he gets established, like he is right now, and he keeps the company growing, most likely in the next year, we're going to be filing for a green card for him. But the process to get him to an approval, it will take about 2 years, okay? So now we got him as a legal permanent resident, and I can work on that one. The next one, I don't have that much control over. So how long do you think it will take him to go from legal permanent residency to becoming a US citizen? Yeah. So in general, 5 years is when you can apply, okay? So once you've been a legal permanent residency based on employment for 5 years, then you can begin the process of applying for US citizenship. The process right now from going from application to actually receiving your US citizenship is taking anywhere from 1.5 to 2 years. So in his case, it's probably going to be, 7 years probably from now to get to US citizenship, okay? So as you heard, this is a passion of mine. So I have my sports and my immigration, and I've been doing it for a very long time at Marks Gray, and actually I have 2 of my colleagues, cameras with me, Fred Kent, who is one of your members and president of our firm. And I have Gavi over here, our amazing immigration assistant. If you have any complaints, those 2. It's been, in all of the work that we do, being informed is critical. For us, it has been more than essential. Today we have something, tomorrow would be something different, the next day would be something different. And we're constantly having to reassess and re-advise our clients because what I tell them today may not be the same tomorrow. And again, start from the beginning, when I started asking you about moving, because again, it hasn't just been immigration, it's been, just imagine all the complexities, and Linda, you work with relocation every single day. The challenges of you just moving into the United States, for them, is moving everything that they've known, the 2 daughters, everything that they've known, they've left behind. Remember their first picture, they're moving into a completely new world, and a new world that may not necessarily, or has not necessarily been as welcome for them. So, and add to that, COVID, were consular closures, inability to get the documents that you need, inability to get a social security number for him when he gets into the United States. So being passionate about what you do, being informed, and having a lot of energy is what has driven us through this year. This is my team. I'm forever grateful for everything that they do. I would not be able to do it without them. I have two immigration specialists, Tyra and Ellen and Gavi. And as a team, we've worked together to continue to make our nation, nation of freedom, a nation of the brave, and all the foreign nationals and the employers that I work with to bring these foreign nationals in. I strongly believe and I have passion in the innovation, the diversity, the entrepreneurship spirit that they're bringing to our country. And I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to do this. And for you, thank you for having me here. I hope you've learned a little bit of immigration, and I'm going to open it to questions for you. I think we have a few minutes. We can take questions from the chat, I believe, or questions from here. Yes.
With all the trouble of getting a legal green card and getting citizenship and all the application process, what do you think about people that just walk in illegal?
Absolutely, yes. So with all the complexities of, what we just explained, all the agencies that you have to go through, the delays and the fees that you have to pay. Don't forget that there's attorney's fees and there's application fees. What do you do with all these people that are, coming in illegally? How do you balance those two, right? And I get that question asked all the time from my clients that come to me and say, this is too much. These people are here illegally. Why do I have to go through all of this? And I said to them, you cannot do it any other way. You do not want to be, to me, it's almost like being a bird in a golden cage if you're here illegally. It's not a way to live. This is a country, I came here because of the freedoms. I mean, I came from Cuba, remember that, where I had no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, no freedom of anything. I came to this country for the freedoms and the opportunities that it offers. I wouldn't want to be here undocumented because you do not, they get a driver's license, they get a social security on the black market, but it's no way to live. I don't think any of them can go to sleep at night peacefully knowing that they don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. So I believe immigration reform is needed. We've been working at it for a little while. I do hope that we get there because we need it for this country. Most countries around the world are reforming their immigration systems. The laws that we have today were created in 1950. We've come a long way in every aspect, in technology, in everything that we do, so we have to move forward. And in the economy that we live today, it's a global economy. We need, our population is aging. We don't have many kids. So we don't need open borders. I'm not pro open borders. I believe strongly in legal immigration. And I believe that we need to provide a reasonable path for those people to come to help us. Hope that answers. Yes. Sure. How is our process compared to the UK? So right now, kind of twisting the question a little bit, Canada is one of the ones that has moved very aggressively into, and I came from Canada. So I went to Canada, and actually part of the reason I do immigration work is because I've done it myself, my own life twice. I went into Canada as an asylee. So I was there without a passport for over a year until my asylum application got completed and processed and accepted. Then I became a landed immigrant, which is the equivalent of a green card holder, and then eventually became a naturalized citizen in Canada. So I went through all of that over there and then came to the United States and did it all over again. Am I crazy? But there were, even back then, many, many years ago, almost 20 years ago, my husband says to me, "You're American now." There was like, at some point I was still half-half. They were very open. And again, they need to do that just because people don't necessarily want to live in Canada. I left Canada because of the winters and, so they have a very, and they continue to open their system. But again, they have some restrictions to it. The UK is kind of similar to ours, but they've also moved very aggressively to enhancing high-skilled immigration, which we don't have. We have a cap on green cards for employment-based immigration of 140,000 per year. So that's the principal. So that would be my CEO, his 2 daughters, and the wife. All 4 of them go into that 140,000 cap. That's per year for anyone that wants to come. So there's a long list of people that have jobs that are willing to contribute that could come. And there is no reason why that number cannot be a fluctuating number. Okay? Yes. Oh, and she was helping me with so come on, yes. What does it mean to have a green card? So you're a legal permanent resident of the United States. That allows you to, you don't have to renew the L1. You don't have to renew your non-immigrant visa anymore. It's a big deal, but you're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to vote, and you're not allowed to apply for a US passport, which comes with US citizenship. But with a green card, which is kind of in the middle, you're allowed to, you have open employment. Most non-immigrant visas are attached to a company. So for example, my CEO, the company that he is a CEO of petitioned for him. When I came to the United States, I had an employer that petitioned for me. Most of my foreign nationals, I work not necessarily with a foreign national, but with a company that employs them. And their visa is tied to that employment. But when you become a green card holder, you have more of an open employment. I can move around and I can travel abroad without having to worry about whether the consulate is open or closed, because my green card is my travel document and my passport from abroad. Okay?
We have a question from the chat. We might have to repeat this here. What do your clients tell you is the most stressful part of the process?
Okay, what do my clients tell me is the most stressful part of the process? It really depends on the client. With this particular client, and for all of you that are parents, I think the daughters was for him most stressful than anything else that we did. I think he knew that eventually he would figure out a way to do something for him and his wife, but the daughters were just so essential. I mean, when he sent me that email, what about my daughters? That was like, okay, I've handled everything else with calm and actually a significant sense of humor. But when the daughters came into the picture, that was just like, Giselle, you need to fix this. And I was like, the consulates are closed. How are we going to do this? And eventually, we worked our way around. But so, and, it depends. And yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for participating. That's what makes it super.
In appreciation of your presentation today, we will inoculate 20 children on your name, on your behalf. Because of Rotary's work, new cases of the disease of polio have reduced by 99.9% worldwide, and over 2.5 billion children have been inoculated. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you again. Join us by Zoom only next Monday, December 14th, where past President John Fryer will introduce Robert Fornaro, who will bring us updates on the U.S. Airlines' current health and future. I want to thank everyone, and congratulations, Chris, on your blue badge. Thank you, Giselle. That was very informative. I didn't know all that. And I want to thank everyone here who's helped support Zoom, and I want to thank those people at home for being part of this. This concludes today's meeting, and thank you.